Is it okay for me to start my presentation? Hello, the moderator.
Yes, Professor, we can hear you. You can start your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yogesh. Well, actually here I want to share about my research about obesity, and the title I give to my research is the analysis of risk factors for obesity occurs in the academic community of Malahayati University in 2020. Yeah, actually, I will not read this slide because the moderator has explained about my curriculum vitae. Okay, well, the audience and friends, speakers of this international conference, we know that obesity has been a serious problem in this world, not only in Indonesia, but around the world. Like World Health Organization said, actually it is not update, but in 2018 said that there has been 30% of the world population in this world being obese. So we can say that it has been a global epidemic. And how is the Indonesia condition of obesity itself? I take from the basic health research conducted by the Ministry of Health of Republic of Indonesia. The obesity incidence in Indonesia is even though it is not really high, but every year it has improvement. Start from the age over 15, the number is 30%. So every year to year, the incidence of obesity in Indonesia always increase. Relating to the obesity itself, my research will focus actually on the correlation between obesity and vitamin D controlled by the other factors such as gender and then socio-economic factors, exercise or sport, heredity, food habits, sleeping and sleeping durations. Because those factors by the previous researchers have been researched. And actually, it is really interesting for me to see the relationship between obesity towards vitamin D. We know that the risk of obesity, like the World Health Organization explanation, obesity can cause some sickness or illness such as diabetes, hypertension, cancer, or maybe stroke. So from these phenomena, we concern on how to anticipate or how to decrease amount of obesity in Indonesia. It is the results of basic research conducted by the Ministry of Health of Republic Indonesia. Every year we can see here that in 2007, only 8.6%, but we can see here for overweight in 2018 become 13%. 13.6, while in obesity in 2007, it has been only 10.5%, but in 2018, it has been 20.8%. When we see the obesity number here, in uh, 11 years old, it has increased more than 10%. So we should anticipate about this condition. Like my explanation before, that in this research, I want to see the relationship between obesity toward the vitamin D and other factors such as gender, socioeconomic, exercise, heredity, food habit, and sleep duration. Of course, in Malahayati University. And then we want to see the problem formulation from the case actually. Obesity and the other those factors, which one most correlated to the obesity itself? Vitamin D, gender, socioeconomic, exercise, heredity, food habit, or sleep durations. And later on, we will see the condition. Well, for the purpose of this study, we want to see the relationship between vitamin D, that's serum 25 or HD, in the blood and the incidence of obesity. And the specific, we want to see the frequency distribution of gender, socioeconomic, exercise, heredity, and food habit, and then for sleep durations. And to study the relationship between gender, socioeconomic, heredity, food habit, and sleep duration to the incidence of obesity in the academic community of University of Malahayati. And the last, we want to see the relationship between vitamin D levels in the blood to the incidence of obesity in academic community of University of Malahayati after control by gender, socioeconomic, exercise, heredity, food habit, and sleep durations as variable here. So talking about obesity, so what is obesity actually? Based on the World Health Organization, they say that obesity is kind of disorder involving exercise body fat that can increase to the risk of health problems. And from the Sarif, it is the one of a pediatric doctor in Indonesia. He said that obesity can occur during being overweight compared to the ideal weight, which can be caused by accumulation of fat tissue. And the classification here, automatically, I differentiate with the WHO because based on the research by the Ministry of Health in Indonesia, we can say that someone get obese if their body mass index is more than 27. While in World Health Organization, they declare that for obese is more than 30 for obese. So the classification here determined by this formulation. And talking about vitamin D, so vitamin D is kind of a fat-soluble vitamin and has function which is needed by the body, and we can take it in our fat. And due to the nature of vitamin D, be able to dissolve in a fat, vitamin D can store and recover from our body. Because we want to see the risk factor of vitamin D deal with obesity, so we have the classification of vitamin D. If the vitamin D itself, I mean here was the serum 25 OHD, more than 100 nanogram milliliter, it is potential toxic, and for the normal condition is 30 to 100 nanogram milliliter, and then for deficiency, if the serum 25 OHD is 10 to 29 nanogram milliliter, and we can see that if the condition is severe in less than 10 nanogram milliliter. So the previous researches conducted by some researchers, obesity with vitamin D, by Van Lin, Simon Van Lin, I mean here, and the Hermawan. Hermawan is my advisor from Malahayati University also. And then obesity with gender, cancer, and others. So it has been familiar actually, the research talking about obesity with its factor. So why I really interesting from this research, because based on the source in Enfren in 2011, she said that there is a correlation between vitamin D and obesity. The formulation we can explain here that when the vitamin D increase, so it will reduce the parathyroid hormones, and then the calcium will increase. Parathyroid decrease, calcium increase, and the effect of calcium increase will increase also the CSNS activity and then GAL tract. And for the parathyroid hormone decrease will influence the insulin sensitivity increase. Because of the activity of SNS, central nervous system here increase, will increase thermogenesis, and then can decrease the de novo lipogenesis. Finally, the produce body fat. So from this theory, we believe that if the someone has vitamin D increase, can reduce the body fat. So with the short sentence, vitamin D high will decrease the obesity. So the conceptual framework I use here, vitamin D, lipogenesis, fat removal in phases, until the weight loss. Automatically, when we use this one, we have this design of research, my research, that we put vitamin D into independent variable, and the confounding variable here we have gender, socioeconomic, exercise regular, exercise, heredity, food habits, sleep duration. And we need the sample here, of course, the someone who obese and non-obese. And this research is a quantitative research. We use analytical, observational, and with the reason of case control. For the sample size, how many sample size we want? Because we need the serum 25 OHD here. We need the sample size to see the condition of vitamin D of our respondent. So by using sample size determination in health study with hypothesis test for population mean to site test, I take this one from the previous research by Parik. We have a number 28. At least participants or sample we can use here in one site is 28. So in this case, we use 30. We hope that it has been representative for my research. So we can see the characteristic of our respondent. We use 30 obese respondent and 30 non-obese respondent. But the results of the test, it's really a surprise for me. Why? Because for the normal condition of vitamin D, only 1 from the control group, and then for the case group, all the case group has deficiency of vitamin D. When we see to the formulation of this classification. Wait a minute. Yeah, if we see the classification of deficiency from my research, we have from the case group 30 respondents and the control group 30 respondents. Almost all of them have a deficiency of vitamin D. And it is the characteristic of our respondents. And for male respondent, we have 27 respondents, and then for female, we have 33 respondents. Because it is, I think, a sample from the academic community, means it is not only student of medical faculty, but some my respondents could be doctor, lecturer, or staff of Malahayati University. Okay, from the results of my study from an univariate analysis, we have that only one in normal or as a case group here or has a full deficiency, but only one in normal have uh, normal. 29 have deficiency. And then for the gender, we can see here, not really different from the age, social economy, and then exercise, physical activity, heredity, food habit, and sleep duration also. So the discussion in this research is even in the previous research said that there is correlation between vitamin D and obesity. Unfortunately, in my research, there is no correlation. Perhaps this, we have some trouble or some troubles in this research, and later on we are going to discuss it. So only one factor in confounding factor, that's heredity, has correlation with obesity. Even though the distribution of sample here doesn't have correlation, but as a researcher, I'm really interested. Why? Because almost respondent suffer deficiency of vitamin D. We know that from the theory, actually, usually for obese person has deficiency of vitamin D, but in my research, on normal person, they suffer deficiency vitamin D too. So the other factors, of course, happen to my respondents, not only about the obesity, but the other factor can cause the deficiency of vitamin D. Like the theory of this one, even my research is not appropriate with this theory, but I believe that in obesity, of course, there is correlation with the deficiency of vitamin D. So because I use this research for public health, so there are some discussion in public health that we want to try to connect with this condition. So we have like alternative solution maybe to cover this condition about the deficiency itself. There are four things like Suharman and Supardi said in 2018, how to avoid it. Illness behavior, and what is in illness behavior? actually, if the someone suffer deficiency of vitamin D, the someone is also realize that take some capsule or tablet consists vitamin D, or by use sunbathing in the morning, because we know that the source of vitamin D come from food and the sunlight. And in this pandemic moment, we believe that the incident of obesity will increase because we know that we use physical distancing. And of course, from this condition, almost everyone will stay at home and automatically will avoid exercise, will avoid sport, and others will decrease many activities. It can cause the incident of obesity be more increased. So the second solution maybe is when we see here the health service behavior. Taking vitamin D tablets or capsule is important if deficiency is known. Means if we have been a deficiency of vitamin D, so it doesn't mind that we should consume some tablet of vitamin D. And then for nutrition behavior, except the sunlight, vitamin D could be produced from our body by consuming some food consists of vitamin D, such as orange juice, egg, fish, shrimp, soybean, and many fish, tofu, maybe this traditional food from Indonesia, soybean cake, and mushroom, and many others food consists provitamin D. And then we can use the environmental health behavior. In this environmental health behavior, we should promote to many people that actually wearing umbrella, wearing clothes that cover the whole body, and other activities or habit that block our skin. It can cause the deficiency of vitamin D if this activity we always conduct every day. So by giving or by blocking sunlight to our skin or our body can reduce the composition of vitamin D to our body. Because this research even doesn't have correlation, I mean, for vitamin D and obesity. So we realize that, of course, there is a weakness of this research. So for the next research, maybe they should change the type of uh, research. Maybe it is not case control anymore, but it can use like another approaches. And then the point is about the sample of size, because when I see the previous research of vitamin D, most of those researchers using more than 300 sample size. But in this research only use 60 if we back to the previous sample size, 30 obese person and 30 non-obese person. So when we use the statistical analysis, it is really small, but yes, that's okay for me because we have the limitation of time to do this research. And we think that this research has weakness on amount of sample we have. So the correlation cannot be proven. And then this is the situation we have when we conduct this research, because it has clinical research. We have a collaboration with Prodia as the institution who can take this serum 25 OHD automatically with Malahayati University. And how to determine about the obesity? Of course, we use BMI or body mass index. We use the body mass index. We account the body mass index from the height or tall and the weight. The weight divided into the tall in meter square. So if the BMI is more than 27, so we put into obese persons. But if the BMI is less than 27, so we say that it is normal or non-obese. So by having weight measurement and height measurement, we can see the body mass index of our sample. And actually, to see the obesity is not only about BMI, but maybe we can use the belly measurement. But we use in this research is BMI. And of course, we use the questionnaire itself for to see the condition of their sleep duration, their exercise, their food habit, their heredity, and the other factor we use for our research here. Okay, I think that's all before this one. So because I'm from Malahayati, so I want to introduce to you all about Malahayati. We are the one of private university in Lampung. We have medical faculty, public health faculty, engineering faculty, economic, and also law faculty. In medical faculty, we have nurse, we have medical doctor, pharmacy, nursing, and midwifery. So after pandemic finish, maybe we can conduct an international conference in Malahayati or in SMPT. We can have known each other to elaborate our research. It is the picture of my hospital of Malahayati Hospital, Education Hospital, and then for the campus. And this one is library of Malahayati. We have the interesting library because we use all ethnic in Indonesia become our miniature of our library. And then because we have dormitory, so all medical student of Malahayati University stay in the dorm. So we have the dormitory. It is the picture of our dormitory. And then in Lampung also, you can see if you come to Lampung, we have many tourism places such as Waikambas. It is national park of 11 in Lampung. And then we have Purbakala site. It is prehistoric site. It is in Lampung also. And we have many beaches. So like Pahawang, Kiloan, yeah, interesting beaches. And of course, when we want to visit Lampung, we can see these places. Okay, I think that's all for my presentation about obesity and some factors include. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Slamet. Now I request delegates, participants, if you have